Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamp's new Folk Art Daisy stencil set, their Spring Vine Layering Frames dies. I have their lovely layers Winter Greenery and also lovely layers Spring Greenery. And for a sentiment, I'm using Best of Everything, the stamps and coordinating honeycut dies. I'll start by stenciling the background. I have a mini stencil mat from Waffle Flower, a piece of white cardstock, and I'll tape in the stencil just to make sure it doesn't move. The first stencil layer I'm using is the leaves, and I selected Catherine Pooler's Matcha ink color. This set includes 4 stencils, and it doesn't matter what order you use them. After I've finished the leaves, I'll remove the tacky tape, switch out to the next stencil, which is the stems. The ink color is Over Coffee by Catherine Pooler. This is a 6 by 6 inch stencil, although the cardstock piece I'm using is half a sheet of 8.5 by 11. So it's 5.5 by 8.5. I'm planning on trimming down this panel, so I wasn't really worried about losing just that bottom portion of the stenciled image. Once I finish with the stems, I'll start working on the small flowers. The ink color is Shea Butter by Catherine Pooler. Beautiful yellow color, and I'm not generally a fan of yellow. For the large flower in the center, I'm also adding a little bit of the Sauna ink color. Although in my finished card, I do end up covering up that center flower. But I wasn't sure what route I was going. I wanted to at least start with a stenciled background. The final stencil layer is large flowers, and I'm using the Sauna ink color by Catherine Pooler. This layer features not only the flowers, but also the centers of some of the smaller flowers. And now the fun part, the reveal. So look at that beautiful pattern. And the fun thing about stencils, you can easily just change out the colors for a completely different look. I cut down the stencil background to 5 by 4 inches. And I'll layer it on some brown cardstock. So I have a slightly wider cardstock border on the right and left side. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This is an American Standard A2 size card, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. Using one of the dies on the Spring Vine Layering Frame set, I cut out this piece from some vellum. I'll put glue just in the very center and adhere it to the card, since I will be covering that area up. It is a little sad that I'm covering up the largest flower on that stencil design. Using the leafy circle die from the Spring Vine Layering Frame set, cut this out from some green cardstock, and I will be adhering it to the very center of the card. First, I'll add an assortment of branches underneath the green leaf circle piece. I used some brown cardstock and also some gold mirror satin cardstock. I'll cut down some of those pieces and start adhering them in the upper left-hand corner and some in the lower right-hand corner. And for now, I'll hang on to the leftover die cut pieces since there's still areas I could use and tuck underneath the leafy circle frame. I won't attach the green frame until I've adhered all of the branches. I want a few more branches in the upper left-hand corner. Now I'll start adding branches in the lower right-hand corner. And I keep laying the leafy green circle on top. I just want to make sure I have the correct placement on all of the branches. Once I've attached the final branch, I'll put some foam dimension on the back of the leafy frame. I'm using Honeybee Stamp's white foam dots. I love the little tab for removing the release paper. I'll adhere the leafy frame to the center. Now I'll carefully lift up the vellum frame, add just a little bit of glue underneath the branches. That way there are more areas of that frame that are attached to the card. And by adding it underneath the branch, you won't see the adhesive through the vellum. Now I'll set the card aside and start working on a wax seal. I'm using Honeybee Stamp's brand new Cherry Blossom Wax Seal Stamper. I have their Silicone Mat, their wax melting furnace, and I've already lit a tea light. The wax melts are part of their Simply Spring release, and I'm using just the cream color. I'll add 5 of the beads to the spoon and place it on top of the furnace. One thing that's really unique about this silicone mat, there's 8 circles on the right side. you can pour the hot wax directly into those circles to create a perfect circle seal. I personally prefer the look of an imperfect seal, so I like to pour mine onto the flat surface. After you pour the hot wax, you simply place the brass stamper on top, let it sit for about 20 to 30 seconds, remove the stamper, and you have a beautiful wax seal. To really help the image pop, I'm using a gold paint pen and adding it to the beautiful cherry blossom image. I do recommend letting that paint sit for a few minutes to dry. I wasn't being very patient, so at this point that paint is still very wet. I'm being very careful not to touch it though. To adhere the wax seal, I'm using Honeybee Stamps wax seal stickers. They are the perfect size for your wax seals. For a sentiment, I did some heat embossing. I stamped it with Honeybee Stamps white ink, used some white embossing powder, then heat set it. And I think the white on brown cardstock really pops. I do have some foam dimension on the back side. I used Honeybee Stamps thin black foam strips, and I did cut those down to fit behind the sentiment. After adhering the sentiment, I did lift up the vellum frame to add a little bit of glue underneath. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some brown pearls, and these are from Honeybee Stamps Warm Pearl Set. Put 2 in the upper right hand corner and 3 in the lower left hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.